Okay. So, right, which orders fundamental principle. Fine. So here, what this ordinance is nothing but conferring. So confer a holy, or let's say confer only. I think in some of the books, or I think maybe in purposefully I use this particular word. Right. So orden is nothing but conferring. So fundamental law has conferred fundamental principles. Right. So on these principles, on which the government of country is based. Right. So on the basis of this, or based on this, the government of the country is being run. Fine. So this is the thing. Second, what we can consider, Constitution lays down the framework and principal functions of various organs. Right. We are seeing about this. This would be the first thing. Second thing, right? As आपण बरंच पाहत राहिलो, if we see everything, so there are a lot of things, but still some of the things which are necessary. तसं पाहिलं तर nobody of yourself is eager to learn this particular by yourself, because sometimes it feels difficult, sometimes it has no interest likewise, but still you have to always look into, and for that these things will be definitely helping you in understanding or enhancing your interest while learning or while understanding some of the things. Right? Ultimately, what is the key thing? Key thing is understanding the meaning of question. That's it. So irrespective of whether you have studied it or not, in my opinion, you are always able to answer that particular question once you understand the meaning of answer. But again, that particular point must be, or something must be, that particular point is already known. Right? So Constitution lays down जबाबदारी दिलेली असते. The framework and principles, right? And principles, or the principal functions, I can write. Right. So these are the things which we can consider. Whose framework? That is important. Of various organs. आता इथे branches वगैरे काही म्हणू शकतो असतो आपण. But what we have here, that is organ. That means further something is there. Then whose organs? Right. Of the government. Right. As well as different modalities of interaction. Right. So different modalities of interaction. For example, the agencies. Right. Again, in this case, I will tell you one thing. Again, this was question of this was a question in one of the previous question papers. Which one of the following is an autonomous institute or autonomous body? Right. And then 4 options were there. First option is about the Department of Space. Then second is Department of Biotechnology, right? And then third is Department of Science and Technology, and the fourth one is the Agency of Fertilizers, right? I think agency was not the word, but something like that, right? So that would be the case. Now see here, department, each of these three, above three is Department of Space, Department of Biotechnology, and Department of Science and Technology. So these are the autonomous things, right? So, but the fertilizers it is part of Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, right? So in that case, now this Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers is having two different agencies or two different organs, right? That one is related to the, let's say, sorry, what was the question? I said, what is among the following is autonomous. In fact, it was not the question. What is not among the following is the, what is not among the following is autonomous body, right? So not among is the last option. That is your agency of the fertilizers. So what happens? The ministries are carrying out their operations through some of these things, right? So again, you should know some of the things. For example, you can consider the schemes, which are called schemes. Very recently, the scheme of, say, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana, right? So according to that, every farmer who is having some farm on his name is getting through around by 4 months, yes, getting 2,000 per 4 months and yearly 6,000 rupees, right? So that is the case. That means, and now see, it must be being carried out by some of the agencies, some of the part, and that is nothing but the organ, right? So of various organs of government. Okay. So this is the case. Now, if we consider, right, so these are the some of the things which we can consider by according to the or related to the constitution. See, almost all democratic countries, those who are democratic country, right, except some such as a United Kingdom, possess a written constitution. So we do have a written constitution, right? As I said, most of the democratic countries are having the written constitution. But if you consider UK is not having their constitution in the form of, let's say, or the written constitution, right? Anyway, just I said, if someone thinks that what it could be, then India is also having a written constitution, right? On which possess an elaborate, or we can call it in the way of comprehensive, right? So which is constituted, or let's say, which is, yes, constituted by the Constituent Assembly specifically, right, for a specific purpose, right? So that is the case which we can consider about that particular thing, right? Then now, if you consider the making of the constitution, I think I have also written a point related to the making of constitution. I think now we are actually going into the constitution, right? So till now we can consider as an introduction or the significance of this particular point, right, which may be helping you out in understanding some of the things. So making of the constitution, which we can consider. So there were two things I have written yesterday related to constitution: making of constitution, and that is called rather elements of constitution and sources of constitution. So making of constitution. Here, if you see in this particular case, so there was a cabinet mission, right, which has established a constituent assembly to frame a constitution for the country, right? So this thing you know already. Then the members of constituent assembly were, yes, the members of constituent assembly were elected by the provincial legislative assemblies. So at that time in 1946, if you consider, right, prior to independence, so we do have provinces, right? So let's say Mumbai Prant, provinces Prant. So at that time, if we consider Mumbai province, so in that some part of Karnataka, Goa, today's Maharashtra, most of the Gujarat, and also some part from Madhya Pradesh, right, we can consider. So that was the part of Mumbai province. So the members members of the Constituent Assembly, right, which was established to make the constitution of country, were elected by the provincial legislative assemblies. So प्रत्येक प्रांतातून एक, right? So likewise, the members were elected. Fine. Then each province and state were allotted a seat in proportion of their population, right? For example, what it was done. So one member for constituent assembly to a million. So for a million population, one member is selected, right? Otherwise, in one of the provinces, you can have a huge crowd and its physical size is also greater, and then you will be considering only one. So it was not the case. So it was according to the population. Then the seats were distributed among the main communities, right, which we can consider were Sikh, Muslims, and general. So the communities have been made, and the seats were distributed among these communities, which we can consider. So if we consider according to the population, right, members from provinces, right, depending on the population. Right. So one for a million. So one member. One member for a million population. Fine. Then, if this is the case, then how many were the total members, which we can consider, right? So there were total members were 385, right? So these were the total members, altogether 385, which we can consider. Again, if you want to bifurcate these members, that can be bifurcated into the let's say representatives of different provinces, right? So in this particular case, but you know what has happened? This was in 1946, right? 1946. Fine. Now, second case we can consider here is the after independence. What could have been happened? So what could have been happened after independence? So independence caused the partition, and after partition or after independence, the members must have bifurcated, right? So this is the case. So among these, after partition, we could have 299 members, right? I will write it here. After partition, 299 were there. Again, among 299, only 284 were present on the day of adoption, right? So on 26th November 1947, right? So this was the case which we can consider. Fine. Now the Constituent Assembly's meeting started in 1946. Then they reassembled on some other day in 1947, right? Then they have constituted a sovereign Constituent Assembly of India, rather the name, right? So it has taken 2 years and 11 months, right? 2 years, 11 months, 18 days to finalize the constitution, right? So how much time it has taken? 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days, right, to finalize the constituents, right? So the constitution was finalized within these many days. Fine. Suppose if you have any question on these points, so all these questions will be called as will be known as the factual questions. And in order to understand, in order to answer the factual question, how much time you will take? 3 to 5 seconds, right? But in order to understand the meaning of it, it may take 30 seconds. So altogether, within 30 to 35 seconds, you always attempt that particular question, which is correct. But in order to answer it correctly, you must know the facts related to it. And for that, now see, you can put these questions into the very easy type of questions, right? That how many members were there for the Constituent Assembly, right? So you have the answer. So when did the Constituent Assembly was established? So it is in 1946. Okay, so how much time it has taken? So this question will not be asked because it has the question text answer is far more to be, but still, yes, some part of it may be in question 2 years, and then next two options will be the 11 months and 18 days, like kind of things, right? But now it is too long, right? It has been happened, so it is a well established fact, so less possibility of asking these questions, right? If you could think about it 30-40 years back, then at that time it might have been asked, right? So this will be the way which we can consider. Then if you consider the final reading, which is called third draft, was completed on 26th of November 1949, right? So on this date, the signature of the President of Assembly was appended, right? The President of Assembly, keep in mind, was appended on it, and the Constitution was declared as passed, right? So what we can consider, 26th November 1949, right? So declared. the Constitution has passed. Right. So this would be the way. So the provisions which are relating to the citizenship, elections, and the parliament, etc., were implemented with the immediate effect. Right. With the immediate effect. Once it was accepted, right. So from that day only, the provisions, whatever the provisions made in the constitution related to citizenship, right, elections and parliament, right, were were implemented with immediate effect. Now, if you consider the provisions of the constitution which came into force on 26th of January 1950, that already you know, right? So this date is referred to the date of commencement, right? And therefore the 26th November is as Constitution Day, right, is being celebrated, right? So on let's say what we can say on 125th birth anniversary of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, right? So on the eve of, on the occasion of his 125th birth anniversary, the 26th of November has started to celebrate as the Constitution Day, right? And it was happened in the last government's tenure, that is the Modi government's first tenure, right? So Government of India, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, with effect from 2015. So for us, or for these days, it is recent, right? What I said, on the occasion of 125th birth anniversary of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, the day of Constitution, 26th November, is started to celebrate as Constitution Day from the year 2015 by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Right. I think I'm not able to remember in which exam, but which ministry has adopted this particular concept that was related to that, there was a question, right? So this will be the case. Now see, now you must be understanding the importance of solving the question papers. So once you know these things, for how many years or how much time you can remember whatever, let's say I'm introducing to you, or you yourself are reading through the books. But while solving some of the questions, while going through the question papers, you always keep it in mind for a long time, because in that particular case, your involvement is greater than the learning from me or just reading by yourself, right? So that involvement makes difference. That is very important. Therefore, you must have to have certain questions, right? No doubt, here you will be finding out the regular test, right? Or well, you can, what you can consider the mock test, right? I think for that, the regularity in your classes is important as far as this pandemic situation is concerned. So this was about the making or the formation which we can consider. Now, next question comes in here is the different sources of the Constitution, right? So what were the different sources? Next point is sources of Constitution. Right, sources of Constitution. So if you consider the skeleton of the Constitution of India, right, many of whose provisions were imported from other constitutions, right, in the world. Many of the provisions what we do have in our constitution have been imported from other constitutions in the world. Then which of these, right, not only other constitutions, but also uh, some of the previous acts of government of India. For example, if you consider the government of India's Act 1935, right? So some of the provisions imported from Act of Government and A and from is here from other constitutions in the world. So these are the two sources which you can consider. Now, still you have to go for these things. So as far as act of the government is concerned, so which act? Here I can write Government of India's Act 1935. Now see what has happened. So in 1935 we were fighting for independence, right? So at that time, prior to or recently to that year, the Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, right? Sukhdev, Rajguru. Then at other side we can consider Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, anyway. So all were there, and they were now they have started to see the independence of India very soon, and therefore at the other side they have started in thinking what could be the structure of the independence, right? So that is the way, and it was being started to skeleton its independence. And for that, the Government of India Act 1935 was there. So most of the, if you see today's Constitution of India, so its skeleton is, most of the skeleton is derived from this act, which you can consider, right? So, for example, the skeleton of Constitution is formed, right, as a blueprint of this act, right? For example, the features of federal system, which are now in our constitution, right? We do have a federal system. So that was already in the Government of India's Act 1935. Then the system of governors, right? That is about governance. That was already, so whatever the today's system of governance we do have, right? Or the office of governor we can consider now. That was already in the Government of India, India's Act 1935. Then emergency powers. What could be the emergency powers that we can offer? That were also considered in Government of India's Act 1935. Right. So what we have taken from this, the blueprint of federal system, right? Then office of governor, then emergency powers, So these were the things which have been taken from this act, right, which are currently we are having in our constitution, right? Currently, I mean, at that time they were there. So some of them might have been amended, right, in the last 70 years. So we can consider. Then this was the point first, that is the act of government. Now, from other constitutions in the world, so whose constitutions were used, or some of the provisions from whose constitutions were imported, right? So there are, secondly, we can have the constitution of Britain, right? Then from Constitution of Britain, the law-making procedure was taken, right? We can consider law-making procedure. Then the next we can see there are some other points, right? If someone wants to go through, then we can go through this, or if you want to go by yourself, then that would be always preferred, because sometimes it becomes very hard to digest, right? The Constitution of Britain, Constitution of USA, for example, independence of judiciary, which we have taken from USA, right? Or the judicial reviews, which we can consider. Also the fundamental rights, which we have, that were also imported from the USA. Then Constitution of Canada, right? So the federation with a strong center, which we have imported from Canada. So today, what happens? So central government is responsible to its federal states. So we do have center at the center, right? And we do act as the rather the states will be the federal, right? So that point is we have considered, and we know our center is always stronger than the states, right? So that is the part which we have taken from Canada. Then from the Constitution of Ireland, we have also taken something from the Constitution of Ireland. For example, directive principles of state policy. So what could be the directive principles of any of the state policy, right? So that will be the always important. Most important thing is the method of presidential election. So how the election of president in India must be done, right? So the procedure or the method of president election was imported from the Ireland's constitution, right? Then from the constitution of Germany, we have also taken something, right? For example, what about the or how to suspend the fundamental rights during emergency, right? So during emergency, people will not have any kind of fundamental rights. That's why everything will be decided by the government, right? Very recently, because of this pandemic, right, we have considered this particular point, right? So most of the fundamental rights were likely to be the suspended, right? At least for smaller tenure, which we can consider. Then next is something we have taken from the Constitution of Australia, right? So that is being taken from Australia. So what we have taken from Australia? So trade and commerce provisions, right? So what could be the trade and commerce provisions? हे औद्योगिक क्षेत्रामध्ये आपल्याला या गोष्टींचा फार उपयोग होतो. Trade and commerce provisions which have been taken from Australia. We have also taken something from Constitution of South Africa. Right. From South Africa's constitution, what we have considered. So suppose if you want to amend something, right? So you must have 2/3 majority, which is called special majority, right? I will tell you one question, not exactly related to this, but related to the majority. So in one of the previous question papers, there was a question, right? So to pass any bill, or to make any amendment in the constitution, you need of the following, right? And following were simple majority, special majority, right? Likewise were the options. So see, always you have to have the special majority. And how that special majority is decided? Special majority is nothing but 2/3 majority in the parliament, right? So that is the case which we can consider, right? So that we have taken from the South Africa. Then something we have taken from the Constitution of France. So what we have considered? So the Republican system, what kind of Republican system that we have taken from the France. Also, most important thing is the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Right. So that is taken from the France. And the Constitution of Russia, USSR, right? Union of Soviet Russia, right? So Soviet Russia. That is what we have taken, the fundamental duties. Right. So here my point is to you, forget about what we have taken from which, right? So that we can consider separately if you want. But here, I think very few seconds have left. So what we can consider here, these are the sources, right? So altogether 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and this one 10. So altogether these 10 were the sources, right? So that are coming under the heading of sources of Constitution of India, which we have, right? So this is the way, right? If specifically what we have taken from these, that we can also consider, right? So I think someone wants, okay, I will stop here. Okay, you can take the screenshot of it.